This is a quick message, and I feel like somebody needs to hear it. But there's a lot of fear of change in the energy, and it keeps coming up in readings that I've done. And I was like, you know, I'm like, okay, why does this keep coming up? Why is there such a fear of change? And and I had to think about myself. I'm like, like I'm an earth sign, and so and I'm a Taurus specifically, and so I like things the way I like things, and I kind of like, I dig my heels in, and I stand firm on what I believe and what I want. And I had to really like think about myself in this context, and I'm like, well, I'm not necessarily afraid to let things go that don't serve me. You know what I'm saying? I don't really have the same fear of loss that I see coming up in the readings that I'm doing. And so but I had to think about it, right? Like, there was a time where I was afraid of loss. You know what I'm saying? And I had to like really like try to figure out, well, what is it? Why is it that these people are so afraid of loss? And then it kind of like came to me. When you lose something, whether that's like you lose a person, like maybe like, God forbid, you lose a loved one, like literally, like they pass over, transition, or you lose like maybe you lose your, partner, like you're a breakup or something like that, or like even if you lose a competition, there people have fear of loss of those things. And I come to the conclusion that fear of loss is because people largely define themselves by those things, right? People largely define themselves by their parents, by their siblings, by their jobs. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not just talking about income, because of course we all need money, but like by their jobs, by their victories. And there's an attachment to those things, because it's like, well, who am I, or who are we without those things? Like, for example, like, say that you lose a competition, like a race or something like that. I don't know, like say you're at like a track meet in college or something like that, and you lose. There's a part of you that has defined yourself or built your identity on the fact that you are, a track, like an athlete, a track runner. And like, if you lose, or like you don't place, then what does that say about you as an athlete or as a person that runs track, when you've defined yourself by that, to a certain extent? And the same, like your relationships, especially romantic relationships, people really do largely define themselves by their relationships and by who they're dating and whether or not they're successful and is their partner happy. Because then it's like, okay, that you're doing things right, quote unquote right, because maybe they're making your partner happy, because you can like maybe literally see that they're happy, they're telling you that they're happy, and they're still in the relationship. And so that means that you define yourself by those things that you're doing to make them happy. But then if they were to leave, then it's like, well, now you have to start reconsidering who you are. You know what I'm saying? It's like, well, damn, like I thought I was doing all the right things. I was cooking meals, I was doing this, I was doing that. But that loss kind of like makes you have to like look at yourself. You know what I'm saying? So like, I don't want to ramble on too long, but I just was like, I saw a trend in readings across different energies, and I'm like, why does like this fear of change keep coming out? Like fear of change, resistance of change, death reversed, wheel of fortune reversed, like, like loss and like fear of loss. And I think it largely has something to do with the fact that like, and check my last reading, especially if you're feminine energy. Check my last reading that I posted, where it's like manifesting your divine counterpart, where I talk about, all of these external influences that that are fighting to kind of like get into our energy. And I'm like, and to build on that, fighting to get into our energy to define who we are or how we perceive ourselves. You know what I'm saying? And then how we perceive how we're supposed to love and love ourselves. So like, you know what I say? Like, to hell with all of these external influences. Like, none of them define who we are. They are just things that we do. They are just people that we know, and I'm not saying that losing loved ones isn't hard. I'm not saying that. You know what I mean? Like, I process grief the way I process grief because I released material possessions a long time ago. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's a story for a different day, as far as like, I lost both of my parents, and but most people were very shocked about how I handled it. And that's because at 17 years old, I realized like I had to like start like a gentle release because of the way, my parents were living their lives. And I was like, if I hold on too tightly to them, to the hope that they will change their lifestyle. And I was 17 a very long time ago. I'm almost 40. And so I was like, I realized at like 17 that if I hold on to the hope that they will change, then it's going to have me stuck. Because I see that they don't want to change. But I do. I do want to move forward with my life. And at 17, I learned to let go, not of my parents. I love my parents. You know what I'm saying? Like that I didn't leave my parents, but I compartmentalized in a healthy way, because I had to put like them and what they were doing and their lifestyle and their choices into one compartment, and then my goals and my aspirations for myself in another compartment, so that I could move forward without the baggage of their life and their choices. And that was my way of separating external things from my own sense of self-worth and who I am. And so when they passed, in each of them separately, years apart, I handled it very well, because I had already understood that who I am and who I was becoming and who I became is not dependent upon who they are and the choices that they made. And I say this in a loving way, because my parents, meant the world to me, and they're still with me, spiritually, and they bust their asses to raise me. So there's no slight, no shade. I am a grateful daughter. You know what I'm saying? They did a great job with me with what they had, but they also had their own lives to live and made their own choices. And I decided that, what they, I decided that I had to separate myself from that energetically. And I think that was a very early lesson for me in my self-worth, and my direction cannot be determined by what they do. You know what I'm saying? And so I think that's a lesson that we all really need to learn, and we need to learn to do it in a healthy way. And I think the way that I did it was healthy, because it didn't change my relationship with them. It just changed my understanding of who I am, despite what's going on around me. So, hopefully I was going to pull some cards, but there's no reason. But hopefully there's a message in here for someone when it comes to really, one, understanding who you are, and two, releasing the fear of change. It is okay. Not change, I'm sorry, loss. Like, stop being resistant to change is what I'm thinking. To not be resistant to change, because change is not bad. It is inevitable. But there is a way to, accept change, embrace change, and even to like bring about change with grace, with like give. You know what I'm saying? With room, in a way that like you kind of create a buffer between the inevitable change, like when you actually allow the change to happen or bring that change about yourself, because you are not defined by anything or anyone, that is around you. So hopefully, like I said, this message resonated. I just wanted to make sure I got this out there because I was thinking about it and I was like, there's a message here for someone. Like, this is Spirit Speaks 333. Merry Christmas again.